Hi everybody. I was encouraged to make a short video talking about my life and specifically talking about the last year because I do have a life which is very difficult to explain very quickly. So I'll just try and unpack it a little bit at a time. But when I was younger, when I was four, I had a trauma event which, as an autistic person, meant that I masked. I hid my personality, who I was, in the back of my mind. And it wasn't something that I chose to do, it was something that my mind did as a reaction to what happened. And I didn't know about this. I wouldn't find out about this for, almost another 40 years. There is layers to masking, there is depth to it. And as my life progressed, I ended up going deeper. Age of 12, I lost my voice for a period of, I think it was a day or a couple of days, due to bullying. And the bullying didn't stop. In fact, actually, it ended up getting worse. So my instincts reacted, my mind protected, and what happened was I started repeating other people's words from people around me, from TV shows and movies, and this meant that I didn't really get a say in my life. I didn't get to use my words until last year. I had my first conversation last year, age 42. And that's what I'm saying. I mean, my life is tricky to explain because there's a lot to it. I haven't done a lot in my life before last year, but there is a lot to understand so that you understand me. So I started scripting, and I scripted for 30 years from the age of 12. At 13, probably the biggest event, or the event that had the biggest impact in my life, happened. And I was on a camping trip with the school, and I don't want to bring back the memories, but I remember waking to the smell like burning tyres, and what had happened is I'd been dragged in a sleeping bag, and the bottom of the sleeping bag had been put in the campfire. And I got so scared of people that I didn't want anything to do with the world, society, people, for about 30 years. And there are some people I've had in my life, but they fell in my life. If I couldn't find a way to communicate with them, not being able to use my own words, then it meant they didn't stay. So I ended up only having a handful of people that stayed in my life that fell into it. But each one of them has made such a difference. They helped change my life entirely. When I met my wife at 28, it was about 4 months after an accident which has left me with what will be a permanent spinal injury and permanent pain. And I felt like my life, every time I was getting somewhere, something would happen and it would all just be torn away again. I'd been homeless 3 times, this was the third one. And I just didn't feel like anything in my life would ever go right. That I was essentially a pinball and everybody else held the flippers. So meeting my wife was a huge thing. She accepted me. She was the first person I really felt comfortable being silent around. And given that I wasn't talkative, I wasn't able to say what I wanted to when I wanted to, that was really important. I think that's why we had such a strong connection straight off. I mean, instantly. We've been married 13 years now, been together 15. We've got an amazing daughter, Megan. She's fantastic. Love her to bits. I have what I never thought I would get. I have a family. I have friends. I have a job I love, working as an autistic human rights activist, supporting the global autistic community and caregivers, trying to make sure that a life like mine doesn't repeat in the lives of others. So last year, well, in fact, no, I'll go back 2 years. When I got my diagnosis, that was the 14th of September 2020. And I remember my doctor saying to me that getting a diagnosis at my point in life wasn't going to make a significant impact. So just remember that while I go forward from here, right? So, yeah, sorry, I'm trying not to laugh at that because I know what's coming. So I was diagnosed. I managed to speak to an autistic psychologist. I cleared out some things. I had a conversation with a friend that means the world to me because she understood that I was masking and scripting. She has 2 autistic children. And she supported me, she helped me open up, and she helped me find my voice. And when people normally say that, they mean their ability to say what they want to. I mean literally find my voice. Because before that, I could only respond if my mind had seen something or heard something that was relevant, that was close to what I was trying to say. If not, I couldn't speak. I didn't have anything I could say. So yeah, her friendship means the absolute world to me. And she helped give me the ability to do this, to try and change lives. About 9 months after my diagnosis, I've been working on a plan to try and put in the right support, give the global autistic community a voice and caregivers in what needs done for the future generations. So I came up with the New Life Autistic campaign. And about 9 months in, I went online with it. Now, I'd been hiding from people for 30 years, and I'd been watching the same media from the 80s and 90s, and I got thrown into 2020 in a way you won't believe, because I'm kind of looking at the world now like I live in a Back to the Future movie, you know? It's like Fry from Futurama is now a relatable character. That should not be possible. But that's my life, you know? Yeah, I remember the first time somebody was talking about tweets and Zooms and, TikToks. I genuinely thought they were having a stroke. I was really concerned. And looking back now, that's quite funny because obviously this is quite normal for everybody else. But yeah, it was a very bizarre experience. And I've been playing catch up ever since. The amount of information I've had to learn on the spot just to do something at that moment in time has been unreal. Especially when it came to replying in comments to begin with, because I would have to sometimes research. I mean, I'm self-taught in the last 11 years. I picked up picture books to write a story for my daughter. This is the amazing thing about my story. And I'm really trying not to get emotional now because my daughter led me on a path I am so grateful to be on. And it was simply because she wanted me to make a bedtime story for her. One that was just hers. So I learned to read and write properly. It took 3 years. And I wrote the story and published it last year. And I ended up not putting it on sale because the publisher went under about 3 weeks afterwards with COVID. And by that time, I was well on my way to, being where I am now. And that just felt more important because I just looked at it as the autistic population is potentially 50 million people. And if what I'm doing helps change a dozen lives, it helps change 100 lives, then it's worth it. Because the one thing I've heard the most doing this is that autistic people feel alone. And considering we are a population of millions of people, that should not be the case. So I wanted to bring the community together. I wanted to try and find a way of ensuring that an autistic voice isn't drowned out by the neurotypical ones because they're more prevalent. We think differently, we process information differently, we process emotions differently. I mean, this just now, this is a reaction to stress, basically, from pain. And what's happening is all my muscles down my arm are tensing up. And it's just instincts, that's all it is. It's because my instincts are reactive to the brain. Because pain, whether it's mental or physical, is trauma to the mind. So, if you're worried, if you're anxious, these kind of things bring about your instincts. These kind of things make you react. And it does make us different, but it doesn't make us different to the point where we shouldn't be able to have the lives that everybody else gets the opportunity to have relationships, have friendships, jobs. An autistic person shouldn't fail by default because we're different. And my life did feel like that, absolutely did feel like that. Until last year. That's when everything changed. I had a lot of fear. I mean, I was shaking for about 8 months being online. I really hated when a comment or something came in because I didn't know how to respond to most of them. But it was just because I hadn't had the kind of relationships to make that comfortable. I hadn't had enough interactions with people. And also because I was dealing with a world that had moved on for 30 years. Because without people in my life, without access to modern day TV, in terms of what's on a daily television show, you don't get that information. And I wasn't watching that. I was watching, Scrubs and shows and films from my youth, like Brewster's Millions and things like that. That's the stuff I kept on watching because it was comforting, because it helped me feel safe. And I started talking about these experiences. I started talking about my life and being really, really open and honest about it. And then I started rewriting songs for the autistic community, authentic versions, which I really didn't know much about Facebook, or I still don't, to be honest, but I didn't know much about the technology side. So I was tagging in the artists or the bands just so they're aware that I'd rewritten their song and I was putting it out there. It was a respect thing, that's all it was. What I didn't know at the time was that meant it was potentially shared to their page mentions if they wanted it to. And it wasn't until a few months on when somebody was like, oh, I saw your rewrite on the Beyonce page, that's phenomenal. And I'm like, you did? Right? Seriously? As it turns out, it's been shared by many artists, including Adele, Beyonce, Sister Sledge, Disturbed, John Legend, Ocean Colour Scene, Crowded House, One Republic, and I know I'm missing a few there. I don't know if I said Radiohead, but Radiohead, that was one of my favourite ones. Ocean Colour Scene, Radiohead, and Crowded House, because they're the bands that I've listened to so much throughout my life. They were phenomenal. And then I wrote a story about my granddad, who made a kilt for Prince Charles at the time, when he was getting married to Diana, and I put it up on my page, Kilt for a King I called it, and I put it up on my page, and then that got shared to the royal family's page. So as somebody who hasn't had his voice most of his life, to suddenly find myself globally recognised as an autistic human rights activist in like a year, it's amazing. We've had 880,000 views, more than 880,000 views without advertising on the page. And I say we because I've now got an amazing partner in My Life Autistic and Jenny Curtis, who's in America and hoping to try and support the American community, bring the American community together, get involved with the government like we have with the Scottish government, and just ensure that people understand when it comes to autism. You can't look at this and think, oh, he's looking, I don't know. I got angry quite a lot, to be honest with you. I don't know what it looks like externally. I don't get that. But, I got told I got looked angry a lot. I'm not angry. When I'm like this, it's often defensive because I'm in pain. It's as simple as that. And it could be mental pain or it could be physical pain. But for me, that's often the cause. But when I'm settled, when I'm allowed to be me, without judgment, without perceptions of a reality that I may not understand because I've got much more binary thought process and much more logical as well. I mean, I don't know where logic's hiding in this world, but I tell you, hide and seek champion of the century, that one. I've been looking for that since I went online. It's really hard to find, I'm telling you. Um, yeah, I have a very strange life, but I really do hope it makes a difference. I hope it speaks to people, and I hope it makes you think next time that you look at an autistic person that, we're not weird, we're not freaks, we're not trying to be obtuse, or there's layers of the world we don't get, We see the world in a different way. You want me to sum up autism in one line? It's simple. Autism is viewing life from a different angle. Thank you very much. Take care, everyone.